Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I am your host today. I am Lonnie from Horror Heaven77, filling in for Mikey Fish Horror. And if you get a chance, check out my channel and, please subscribe. If you like horror and stuff, I do some really good stuff on my channel too. So, if you like what I do on here, you'll like what I do on there. So, but anyway, enough of that. Let's get into it. The movie I wanted to talk about tonight was a horror anthology that I heard a couple of YouTube videos saying that it was a pretty bad movie. I believe Dark Corners Review was one of the ones that talked about this, and there was another one. I'm sorry, I forget, but I just watched this movie and personally I enjoyed it. The movie is House of the Dead, also known as what was it, Alien Zone or something? Yeah, Alien Zone. It's weird. I think to me personally, I think House of the Dead is a much better title, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, but I do remember seeing a couple of videos where they were talking about this movie was really bad, and I came across it, in a record shop for a good deal, and I was like, no, I'll give it a shot because I'm a sucker for a good horror anthology, and so I watched this, and like I said, I enjoyed it. It's definitely not on the level of like Creep Show or Trick or Treat or any of that stuff, Twilight Zone or any of that, but I didn't mind this movie. I thought it was a good little watch. The story, you start off with this man, who's does they say the character's name? No, they just call him philandering husband. Okay. So anyway, so the movie opens up. He's in bed with his mistress, and she kind of ruins the moment where she talks about I feel sorry for your wife sometimes, and he's like, yeah, call me a cab. I'm gonna leave. And she says, no, you don't have to leave. And so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave. So, he gets in the cab and, the cab driver is very ominous. And so, like, okay, yeah, it seems like it's raining here a lot. And the guy's not answering him. Um, how you doing? That kind of thing. Taxi driver's still not answering him. I wonder when I was a taxi driver, I wonder if I creep people out like that. I probably did. But anyway, though, going back to it. So, he asked the guy, could you drop me off here, or drop me off at my motel or whatever. And so the cab driver, it's raining out, so the guy can't really see, too much of what's going on. But the cab driver just pulls up by the curb, lets him out, and then he realizes like he's definitely in the wrong part of town. So he's like calling out for the cab driver to come back and get him, but the cab driver's already drove away. And so he goes and knocks on the door, and this man opens the door, and then he finds out basically it's a funeral home, and where they're doing the embalming and all this other kind of stuff. And so he invites him in, gives him a cup of coffee, and it has a little bit of like a Body Bags feel to it. You remember John Carpenter's Body Bags, and so they're talking, and so the guy's like he's getting a little weirded out by this guy, so he's kind of like, yeah, I think I better go, and the the guy who runs the Undertaker, I guess he is. He's like, I was nice enough to invite you in. I even gave you a hot cup of coffee. The least you can do is just listen to me for a couple of minutes. So the guy's, okay. So he takes him around and he's showing him like, basically different bodies and different coffins. And every time he opens a coffin, the body in it represents a story. So the first story is about a woman who I don't understand that. It's kind of, the irony of it, it's like the first story concerns a woman who hates kids, but she takes a job as I I believe is like a school teacher, or she works an administrator at a school or something like that. Well, apparently she really really hates kids, and so and she's just like, oh, little buggers, they're disgusting, and I hate them, and so she goes home, and she's kind of like. Not a bad looking woman, but she's got that kind of like almost spinster thing about her. So she goes home and she's like, taking a shower, trying to make dinner. But it's like all kinds of weird things are happening and everything. And, and it's like just creepy stuff is going on. Like she turns on the radio or something like, it'll turn off or something. Just all kinds of weird stuff. I don't want to give too much away, but it's like, let's just say it involves kids, and we'll leave it at that. So, he goes and, he gets done with that. So he shows him a body in another coffin. And then this one is oh, yeah, yeah. That was the one that, what's his name? Burr de Benning? The guy from uh, Incredible Melting Man, and he played the uh, Danny's father in Nightmare on Elm Street 5. You know, when they come, they trying to tell Alice that they want to take the baby away from her. Anyway, you know. Anyway, but yeah, so it turns out this guy is actually like a serial killer, and so you know, he's always kind of like talking into the camera and stuff, you know, saying, "Oh, I invited this girl over, and this girl, she's beautiful, but she's not too, she's not too smart, or this girl, she's, oh, she's, really after me because I'm so, handsome and attractive and all this other kind of stuff." And but he's like luring these women, and he likes to film murdering women, and ultimately he gets caught, and uh, they realize that of course they're able to convict him and put him on death row because of you know all the him filming all the murders and things like that. Keeping them as keepsakes and things like that. So I think I've already said too much about that story. That's the only hard part, though, is like trying to talk about the stories in this movie and not give away too much of the information about them. So then we go to the third story, and that was the one with the two detectives. You got one who's Bernard Rose, who I always remembered him from the Tim Conway movie, Tim Conway Don Knotts movie, The Private Eyes, where he plays Justin the butler. Every time somebody says the word, he's always like British and calm and collective and everything else. But as soon as somebody says the word murder, he's I always liked that guy. I always thought he was funny. But he's this British detective, and he comes to America to find this American detective, and the two of them are basically like trying to compete against each other over who is going to be the best detective, and they're it's like, and the American detective, he gets this clue that he has to solve a mystery that somebody is going to be murdered within a few days, and so he and this British detective decide to kind of like team up so they can solve the mystery of what's going on. And then let's just say it doesn't end well, but and then finally we get to the last story, which I mean it's interesting, a little bit of social commentary in there. The story is about this man who he's like he's one of these guys who works in an office, and everything else. He's a suit, and it's like people try to, and he's kind of a jerk. He's just kind of a douche. It's like so it's like his secretary will come up and she's like, "I did this for you. I need you to let me know if you want anything else." It's like doesn't even want to take the time to just say, "Oh, I really appreciate you. Thank you." And or he's sitting there just kind of like, "You want something else?" What? She's just like, "Just let me know if you want anything else or whatever." So and then like like one of his coworkers comes up, "Hey man, we're gonna try this new restaurant. They got like 25 different kinds of burgers. Come and have fun with us and everything." And he's like, "No." I mean, the guy's just bad attitude. And so he's going out in the streets and he sees like people begging for change and stuff like that. And of course he's like, oh, he's appalled by these kind of people. Oh, you sorry sack, why don't you get out there and get a job and all that other kind of stuff. And so and then he ends up he goes to lunch. So he's like going back. He thinks he goes into his office, but then it turns out it's almost kind of like it's this abandoned building, but it's almost kind of like a torture chamber in a way, and he's being tortured and all this other kind of stuff. And then I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give away a spoiler here, but ultimately he ends up in the street. He's crazy. And the thing is, at the beginning of the story, he runs into this man who's wearing a suit, but he's all dirty, he's disheveled, he's crazy and everything. And the guy's just not making any sense and everything else. And by the end of it, he's kind of like rolled out into the street, and he's the same way too. And then and then it kind of like you see like it's a cycle that people like this that are always looking down on the poor, who think that they're better than everybody else and all this other kind of stuff, that they're just you see that's how they end up. So anyway, and so yeah, so I mean, and then of course you have the wraparound. Like I said, you had the cheating husband talking to the Undertaker. Well, he's finally like, now I want to leave and I'm done. So he goes out, and of course we find out that all does not end well. I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, as always, like pretty much like with a lot of with a lot of horror anthologies, going back to, even Tales from the Crypt back in the day and stuff, a lot of horror anthologies were always kind of stories built on morality. They were always, the majority of the time, they were always stories about, if you were a bad person and you did terrible things to people that did not deserve it. And, it was always kind of like stories about people getting their comeuppance in a very dark, macabre, ironic way. And this movie is pretty much about the same thing. It's that kind of a feel. And like I said, this movie, it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna, stack up against like Creep Show or Tales from the Crypt or anything like that. But overall, I really like this movie. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed some of the stories. I thought this, like with any horror anthology, it's kind of like, well, some stories are not as good as others, but I thought the story with the teacher, I thought that was a good one. The one with the guy filming his murders, it kind of feels like that's been done so many times, but it's not terrible. I really like the one about the two detectives. I thought that was a clever story, and then the final story, yeah, okay, not my favorite of the lot, but still, it's okay. But anyway, yeah, I say if you get a chance, pick this bad boy up, and if you like horror anthologies, it's like me, I love them. I'm always trying to build my collection of horror anthologies if they're good. I've definitely seen some real stinkers, but this one here I would not say is bad at all. I like this one. So if you get a chance, give it a shot, check it out. So anyway, I think that's it. I've talked long enough. God knows I talked long enough in the last video. Anyway, so that's going to do it. If anybody took the time to watch this video, thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like. If you're new to the Body Bags channel, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We got, there's a video every day of the week. We have a different reviewer for every day. I'm normally the Saturday reviewer, but yeah, we got great guys. They're all doing great stuff, and everybody brings their own flair to it. And so yeah, so please check us all out, and everybody take care. I'll see you later. Bye bye.